Commercial (C) and zone or zoning. Property zoned for retail businesses and offices. Zoning is a method used by the city planners to divide a city into similar use areas. Common zone types include A. Agriculture, C. Commercial, M. Manufacturing, P. Public areas like parks or public parking, R. Residential, R1. Single-family residential, R2. Duplex residential, R3. Multiple residential, R4. 4-unit or higher residential, PD. Planned development, and possibly as many more as may be designated by the city or municipality depending on its unique needs. Commercial zoning is for retail businesses and offices. Related words: zoning. Constructive eviction. Landlord illegally forces tenant out via actions/inaction. Constructive eviction is when a landlord does something or doesn't do something that results in effectively evicting a tenant illegally. A landlord who has the water turned off to a property, effectively forcing the tenant to leave, is performing or is guilty of a constructive eviction. Tenants have rights under the law against constructive eviction, including the termination of the lease and possible damages. Constructive eviction is illegal because a landlord just can't get rid of a tenant by making his life uncomfortable. The tenant has rights according to the lease and the law. Principal. Total amount borrowed. Principal is the amount of money borrowed. For a loan of $500,000, the $500,000 is the principal balance of the loan. When paying back a loan, it is typical that the loan payment includes principal and interest, or P&I. Within the concept of agency, a broker/sales associate (commonly called an agent) relationship is one of principal and agent. A seller and a real estate agent is one of principal and agent. Boot. Extra cash or non-like property put into an exchange. Boot is the extra cash or other non-like property items (cars, boats, jewelry, gold, stock, etc.) put into a property trade or exchange (a 1031 exchange, for example) to make up a difference in value of the trade. If one property in an exchange is valued at $500,000, $100,000 in loans equals $400,000. If it is being exchanged for a $700,000 value property, minus $350,000 in loans is $350,000. If a car valued at $50,000 is put into the deal to make up the difference, the car is called boot. The word (non-like) is used because the boot is different from the main exchange item type. Boot is extra cash or non-like property put into a trade or exchange, especially a 1031 exchange. Buyer's agent. Agent who represents the buyer in a property transaction. The buyer's agent is the agent who represents a buyer in a real property transaction. Typically, there are two agents in a real property transaction: the seller's agent and the buyer's agent. The seller's agent works to get the highest selling price and desirable terms for her client, and the buyer's agent works to get the lowest price and desirable terms for his client. The only time this might change is in the case of a dual agency. Dual agency is when a single agent represents both seller and buyer. All agency relationships require disclosure through the DEC process of disclosure. Elect and confirm. The buyer's agent is the agent who represents the buyer in a real estate transaction. Related words: agency, dual agency, seller's agency. Board foot. Measure of lumber. 12 inches by 12 inches by 1 inch equals 144 cubic inches. Board feet or board foot is a measure of lumber in volume. 12 inches times 12 inches times 1 inch equals 12 times 12 times 1 equals 144 inches cubed or cubic inches. Other popular real estate measures are area, which is length times width or feet times feet, which equals so many feet squared or square feet, and lineal feet, which is the length of something added up. A board foot is 12 by 12 by 1 inches or 144 cubic inches. Certified General License. Pass exam, can appraise any property. There are 4 levels of real estate appraiser licenses in California: trainee license, residential license, certified residential license, and certified general license. The trainee license requires direct supervision from a licensed appraiser. The residential license must pass an exam and can appraise residential 1 to 4 unit properties within specified limits. The certified residential license must pass an exam and can appraise residential 1 to 4 unit properties with no restrictions. A certified general license must pass an exam and can appraise any property. All appraisal licenses have education and continuing education requirements. The certified general license is the highest level of appraisal license and therefore can appraise any property. Employing broker. Broker who manages licensed salespeople. An employing broker is a broker who manages licensed salespeople called associate licensees. The licensed salespeople or associate licensees have agent or broker licenses. The employing broker has a broker's license. So there is one broker's license which is responsible for all licensees under that license, called associate licensees. Associate licensees have to physically give their license to the employing broker or, quote, hang their license, end quote, under the license of the employing broker. From an agency perspective, the employing broker is the agent and the seller or buyer is the principal. This is true even though, in actuality, it is the associate licensee who works directly with the seller or buyer. An employing broker is a broker who manages licensed salespeople or associate licensees. Related words: associate licensee, agency. Genuine assent. Freely made mutual consent. Genuine assent is the fruition of mutual consent or the meeting of the minds. If you remember, mutual consent is one of the elements required for a valid contract. Parentheses, a valid contract requires legally competent parties, mutual consent, lawful object, and acceptable consideration, end parentheses. Genuine assent must have none of the following present: fraud, duress, menace, undue influence, misrepresentation or mistake. Fraud is deliberately tricking someone with the intent of stealing. Misrepresentation is providing wrong information without knowing it. Mistake means unclear information. Duress, menace, and undue influence all have to do with some sort of pressure placed on one of the parties so that the decision is not freely made. Genuine assent is freely made mutual consent. Related words: mutual consent, meeting of the minds, contracts. Certified residential license. Pass exam, appraisal of any 1 to 4 residential units. There are 4 levels of real estate appraiser licenses in California: trainee license, residential license, certified residential license, and certified general license. The trainee license requires direct supervision from a licensed appraiser. The residential license must pass an exam and can appraise residential units, 1 to 4 unit properties, within specified limits. The certified residential license must pass an exam and can appraise residential 1 to 4 unit properties with no restrictions. A certified general license must pass an exam and can appraise any property. All appraisal licenses have education and continuing education requirements.